So we're going to use an application to recover items that have been deleted in the recycling bin. So this is one of those projects that I thought was a little more complex, and it did take a little bit of research to do this one because a lot of the old code had depreciated, and there was just things that we had to consider. So the first thing I want to do is give you an example of what it is we're doing first. So I'm going to do this one different from our other videos. We're going to start with what it's supposed to do, and then we're going to build the code. Okay, so the first thing I want to do here, and I am working inside of a Windows VM here, is we're going to open up our Windows PowerShell and say yes. The next thing we're going to do here is I need to change the directory to the C directory, and that's because that's where I put the file that I created. And we have our script, our Python script right there, and we're going to run that now. And you can see that the script ran through each of the user accounts, and in the Bobby user account it found this file, and you can see this has the $i and then these characters .txt file. It then has the original file name, somethingbad.txt, the file size, the creation delete date, the modification date, the access time, and then it also found this thing right here, which is the Microsoft Edge link. This is actually the shortcut that I deleted. So that's in here also. So if we go into the recycling bin right here, we can take a look and see that in fact those files exist. Okay, so the point of this though is that we're looking in the recycling bins of files that have been deleted for all users independent of the operating system. So this is working outside of the user accounts. Now to do this, of course, we have to have administrative access, and so I use the administrative Windows PowerShell. But then we can go through each of the users and collect this information. So that's really it. If we want to run it again, I can do another file here just to show you one more time. Let's pull this into the recycling bin. Let's say we deleted it. And then let's run this again. And I coded a pause in there, so it pauses between each user, so that way it doesn't fly through it, so I can hit enter and see what the next user has. And now the last one, and then here's our next files. So something bad, Microsoft Edge, and then something else, the one that we just did is listed here. All right, so to take a look at the code to see how I did this, we're going to now slide over to Pycharm and take a look at that. All right, so I have Pycharm here now, and I'm going to be using the OS. We have to have the OS module, and I'll be using WinReg import and also time, and we'll go through each one of these as we use them. You'll notice that I have my template here. I always start with my little template like this. And this is just to make sure that my code is actually functional. As you can see, I already tested it, but I'm going to do it again. So let's run delete me. And there it is. Test comes up, so I know this is all working. All right. So now I can actually start coding. And the very first line that I'm going to put here is going to be, I'm going to create the recycling directory, which is going to return the correct recycle directory, and that means I need to create another function that's going to look at the different recycling options, because depending on what version of Windows, it might be recycler or recycled or $recycle.bin. If we're working in Windows 10, it's going to be $recycle.bin, and so we're going to go ahead and program those different possible directories in a brand new function right in here. Okay, so now we have created this function. So I'll go over this function first. here we're going to have this list, and the list is going to be called DIRS, D-I-R-S, and that just stands for directory. And it's going to have the different options. So we have recycler, we have recycled, and we have $recycle.bin. And this is really the one we're interested in because I'm working in Windows 10. And so the next thing is we're going to have a little for loop, and all this is doing right here is this is just determining which one of these we have. So for recycling directory in DIRS, so it's going to iterate through the list, the three options here, and then it's going to check the path using the OS module here. So if os.path.is directory is the recycle directory, then return recycle directory. So all this line right here is doing is checking to see which one of these it is. And once it finds it, it returns it. If it doesn't find it, it returns none. That's it. So it has to be one of these three options. Now, if we're working on a different operating system that might have another one, then we would add that to our little list here. But that's it. That's all that's happening right here is it's just figuring that part out and then returning it. So on line 6, we can see recycled directory equal return directory. So that's this function here, and it's returning the correct recycled directory. That's all that's happening. Now on line 7, I'm going to be calling a new function called find recycled using this directory, and that's so that we can find the actual directory of the recycling bin. Okay, so we haven't written that yet, and but before I do that, I do need to find the SID. And so I need to talk about the SID a little bit, and so in order to do that, let's see here. I have Regit opened up, and this is just the Registry Editor. You can get through this by going to the command prompt and typing in reg and hitting enter, and this will come up. Okay, so you can see here we're looking at the H key local machine, software, Microsoft, and so forth, until we get to the profile list, which is what we're interested in, and that's the tree where we're at. That's this part of the tree is where we're at. Now here we're interested in this profile image path because this is what's going to tell us the users and what the user is, and it's also going to give us the SID, so we can find the SID and figure out who the user is. We need this information. So this is where we want to go. It's right here. All right. So in order to do that, you can see the code. Well, I'm going to put the code up here in a minute. It's going to be right here, but we're using this logic, and I just wanted to show you that. All right. So lines 20 through 28 are the new lines of code here, and this is the SID function, SID to user function. So this function here is going to that profile, or excuse me, that part of the tree that I listed, that I showed you in the Regit. It's going to the profile list, and it's getting our SIDs. So we need to find out from the registry in the profile list, which is here somewhere, we're going to find that list. And so, well, the SID is what we're looking for. So we're looking for this SID right here. And so here's the profile list. We're in the profile list. I went in too far, but in the profile list, we're looking for the SID of every user. And then we're going to convert that to the actual username. All right. So the next thing here is we're looking at the profile image path, and that's this right here. So we need the path, and we need the SID. Okay. So we're going to use this code here to find the value and the type. And let's see here. Once we have that, we need to split this out. And we're going to find the user by using this right here. So we're going to use value.split, and we're just cutting off the end here so that we can get the user out of this. And that's going to return the user. If there's an exception, if this thing doesn't work, then we're going to return the SID. Okay, so that's all that's going on here. So the split here means that we're looking at the backward slash, and then we're taking the last character of that backward, right after the backward slash. That's what this means. Okay, so having done that, this will return, this little function right here, lines 20 through 28, will return us the user. And so we call that, we're going to call that in some code that I don't think we've written yet. No, we have not. Okay, so the code that's going to be using this function is coming up next down here. All right. Lines 30 through 56 is the new function, and I commented it right here on line 30 and 31, this function retrieves the files that begin with the $i from the recycling.bin directory, and then it's good. And this right here is called from the find recycled, and that again hasn't been written yet. But here is where we're going to use the parse. Was it the SID2? It's in here somewhere. I just lost it. But I am going to go through this and then try my best to explain it. So before I do that, though, I need to explain how the recycling bin keeps its information. So okay, so in Windows 10, the recycling bin will place a file in when a file is deleted. It takes two different places, and it places them in two different spots. One of them is the $i file, and that one contains the metadata that is specific to the file, specific to the original file, and it contains the name, the path of the file prior to deletion, the size of the file, the time at which the file was deleted, and then the $R file is a second file that the recycling bin creates. At $R, uppercase R, and that file contains both the renamed file, which is going to rename to a random 6-character value, and it's also going to contain the data of the file, so that way it can be restored. So you're inside the recycling.bin /SID. Your directory is, I'll give you the full directory, is C directory $recycle.bin /SID $i, and then those characters, the random 8 character file name, is going to contain the file name, the full path of the deleted files, the size of the deleted files, and the date and time at which the file was deleted. Now, the $R file, and here's a directory for that one, is C $recycle.bin /SID $R, and then the random 8 character numbers. Actually, it's 6 characters. What it's going to have is it's going to have the contents of whatever the deleted file was. And so what's important to remember is the SID subfolder directly corresponds to the SID of the user that was deleted to the file. And so that's how the recycling bin works. Okay, so having said that, now let's take a look at the code. So the first thing I'm interested in is the I file, the $i file. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to get when I call this function here, I'm going to pass it the file and the recycle directory. Now the recycle directory, it's going to be all of this. Well, this plus the actual directory of where the recycling.bin is in the SID. Okay, so this doesn't get called until the next function, so I'll show you what that comprises of. But it comprises of the entire path, the full path, including the $i name of that file. And we're interested in that I file because that's the one that's going to have all of our metadata, and we need that stuff. So I take the recycling directory and then I rename it to full_path just so I can remember what this thing is actually doing. Here I'm going to check the file name to make sure that this is an I, because if it's R I don't want to use it. I'm looking specifically for I. And so you can see that I use the file name, and the file comes through, and I'm looking at the second character of the file, because remember the first character would be index 0, and that first character would be a $sign. I'm not interested in that, so I want to look at the first character and examine it to make sure it's an I, not an R or something else. So as long as it's an I, we're going to jump down here and we're going to set the file path equal to the recycled directory, and then we're going to start getting our metadata. And the first thing I want to do is I want to look at the deleted file content, and so we're going to go there, I'm going to open it up, we're going to pass it the full path of that directory, we're going to use R for read, and then this part's important. This one took me a little bit of research to find out the proper encoding, because I was using UFD, UDF-8 and trying all sorts of stuff, and I was getting all these errors. And finally, I found some documentation to use encoding CP850. And this one worked perfect, so I highly recommend taking this little nugget from me on Windows 10, because it took me a while to find this. Now the next thing is we're going to find the path. Now, we're going to read the path. So we take the deleted file path and we're going to read it. That's it. Then we're going to close. So we have all this information, and all of that's going to be in this variable right here, deleted underscore file underscore path. Now we're going to delete the first 28 characters. Not really deleting. We're examining the deleted file path and ignoring the first 28 characters, and then we're going to look at everything after that. That's what this right here means. You might recognize this from our conversation on slices, and that's what it is. We're taking a slice of a string and we're ignoring the first 28 characters, and then we're moving forward. All right, now we're going to look at the length of the string, and we're going to clearly we're using the len function to determine that. And we're going to set it to strength underscore length. And then we're going to have a new variable here called deleted file underscore path underscore parse. We're setting that to nothing right now, just to an empty string so that we can use it later. We're also going to be using the variable x, and that's just so we can increment by 2 later. Now lines 46 through 48, we're going to say as long as there's information on this length, so as long as there's something there, we're going to look at the deleted underscore file underscore path underscore parsed variable. We're going to add it to itself, and then we're going to add the deleted underscore file path. And we're doing that as we increment by 2 through each of the characters in I think it's the hex number here. So we're going to be going through those by 2s, and that's what's happening right here. So it's just building it. And once we've done that, then we can say, okay, the file name is actually equal to the deleted underscore file underscore path underscore parse dot rsplit. Again, we have to do this rsplit. Now the rsplit means we're splitting it from the right. We're going all the way to the right of the string. We're looking for the backslash, and then we're capturing everything to the right of that. And that's what this is all about. Now, if there is an else statement here, if the first character, not the first character, but the second character of the string that we passed it in the file wasn't I, it was something else, then we're not doing anything. We're just setting file to nothing, and we're just going to return it as an empty string, because we're only interested in the I, the $I. And all of this code here is extracting the metadata from that file. So this is the function that a lot of you were asking for. How do I get from those random characters that were being tossed out and get to the actual names of things? And so this is how you do that. Okay, so we return the file name, and again, this one isn't called yet, but what is called here somewhere, thought I had called to get the SID here, but maybe not. Okay, so these are the files that we need to get set up. We have our directory, we have the directory part, we're actually looking for the SID here and getting our full path with the SID. So we're getting all that and setting it to the key. And then we're looking at the profile image path. All of this is from the registry, the reg edit, and then returning the user. So all of this is about getting SID and getting information from the SID and the user. All right. Next thing here, we're getting all of the metadata. That's what this is all about. All right. So the next thing we need to do is do something with this information. The next function that we're going to go over is the find recycled function. And so again, this took a very long time to research and to put together, so I didn't want to recode it line by line. I'm just cutting and pasting the function in. So the function 58 through 102 here is handling all of this. This is where we're going to retrieve the deleted files, file metadata. And so I call this function find recycled. You'll notice that this has taken in a parameter that we're going to call recycle directory. This is actually going to be the full directory. And we pull the directory here, and then we're going to get the directory list. Now this list is actually going to pull everything it found in the recycling bin, is what's happening right here. And then we're going to look at the SID for those, and we're going to get the files and the usernames. And you'll notice that a lot of this is already done. For example, right here on line 64 is where we get that username. And we get it by calling the function sid2user, which we wrote up above. And I think that was the second one we wrote right here. So this function sid2user that I already went through this function. This is where we pulled the username out right here on line 26. And so we're calling this function, and it's going to return the SID. Well, the user is what we're going to return. And so that happens right here on 64. Our user is going to be set to call the function, pass it the SID, get the username. So we're passing it the SID, we're getting the username. Excellent. All right. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to print this little string here, and we're going to print the username. Now we do have to cast it as a string because it's not going to come in as a string, but we're going to pass it as a string, and I can get rid of this. It's meaningless now. And so this is going to, I did this part right here because I want to be able to say, okay, here's user 1, user 2, user 3 as it iterates through all this stuff. And then in line 68, I just put this in here to pause between users. Now to make to have the code continue, you do have to press enter, and then it'll go to the next line, line 70 on the compiler. So it's going to print the user. Once you see the user is, you press enter, line 68, and then all of this will start to happen. So now we're going to go through each file in files, and again, files is simply what it pulled out from the recycling bin, and we're going to go through those files. And first thing we're doing is we're going to reconstruct the file name. So the file name is we're going to get this right here, this function. And you remember this function is the one we just spoke about. We're going to pass it the file and the full path. And the full path is the recycling directory plus the SID, // and then plus the file. And then remember the file is going to be the $i whatever, so whatever name was given to it. And so we're passing it these two parameters, and right here I just combined 3 arguments to make a single parameter, which is the full path file. And we're going to set whatever it returns, we're going to set to the file name. So get the iFileInfo, that is the one we talked about right here, this function, get iFileInfo, and so we're passing it these 2 parameters. All of this is taking place, which I already discussed, and it's returning the file name. So it's yanking, and grabbing the file name out of that and returning it. Okay, so that's what line 71 does. Next thing that's going to happen is now we're going to look at this, and if the file name, so all this is saying is that there was a file name. There's got to be something in there. So as long as there's something in here, then what we're going to do is we're going to create the, we're going to get these metrics out of the information. So the creation date. We're going to pass it the path and the file name, and this is all the same stuff. And then we're setting the format. All this is just happening identical. The only thing that's changing here is you notice we're using os.path.get c time for create time, get m time for modify time, get r time, get a time for access time. And other than that, the code is identical. Other than the C and M and A right here. Other than that, the code is identical. Okay, so once we've done that, then we have our creation time, our modified time, our access time. Now, right here on line 84 through 88, there's a little chunk of code. I did comment it. We're going to access the R file because we want to find out what the size is. That could be important because we might be looking for a specific size as we do our forensics of these files. So I put a little try except here because what I'm looking for, the easiest way to do this is just to say, let's take our file name that we retrieved from the from the I, the $i, which is what this is going to be, and what we're going to do is we're going to add the $r to it, so we can get the corresponding R file instead of $i, $r, because remember they're going to have the same exact random characters, except for one is preceded with a $i, the other one by a $r. But this time we're looking for the $r, because that's the one that's going to have this size. And so we say, okay, $r plus whatever the file name is, it's going to be equal to r_file name. And then we just use the path.getSize property, in order to retrieve the actual size of it. That's it. And we're going to set that to the file size. Now, if it fails for whatever reason, we're going to go ahead and just say that we're going to put this here that the file size wasn't found. That's it. Real simple. A little try-catch statement in the middle of all this code that's just looking at a different file, which is the R file, in order to retrieve the size. So that's happening from lines 83 through lines 88. That's all that's happening there. Next is the simple part. Let's print this stuff out. So we're going to print the first file, which is the string file, then the original file name that we extracted, the file size, the creation time, the modified time, and also the access time. And now all of this is wrapped in this if statement. So if this wasn't found, then there were no I files returned, and in which case we don't do anything. And that's it. All right, so my code needs a little bit of cleanup. And I'm not going to worry about this right now. I think this just wants another space. And okay, so that's what's happening there. And okay, what else here? So the only thing that needs to happen now is we just need to uncomment this right here. Because now what happens is the main is where we're calling recycled directory return directory. So all of this is happening here. We get our directory, and once we have our directory, now we're gonna call the function find recycled, and we're passing it the recycled directory. Find recycled is this, and the find recycled is going to call the SID2 user from above. It's going to call all the other stuff that I already went through, all the different functions I already went through, in order to retrieve this information. So that's it. This is the full code that did the demonstration that I already showed you. So I am going to throw all of this into my GitHub account, so you can just download the source code directly and play with it, and hopefully do some good. So learn from it, use it, and do good. All right. So that was it. If you want to take a look one more time at how that code worked, it's simply right-click, go to the PowerShell admin, say yes. Make sure you change the directory. My directory is the C directory. It's where I placed the file. And then you must call the actual code. I call Python 3 because I'm running Python 3. recyclingBin, the name of the file, .py. And here comes the first user, nothing there. I'll hit the enter key again, nothing there. Hit the next one, nothing there. Hit enter again, nothing there. Hit enter again. Now, this is where I'm expecting things because I do have some stuff in that recycling bin. Listing files for user Bobby, enter again, and there we go. The file name with the $i that I was talking about and our random characters here, .text, and then the original name, which is something bad.txt. The file size, there's nothing in there. It's an empty file. It's just a text file. The creation date, deletion date, the modification, the access time, and that is it. So that just goes straight down the list. Here's the other one, something else. If we open up the recycling bin, you can actually see these files right here. All right, so that was it. I hope you enjoyed that. I know I did go over it a little bit quickly. I want you to know it did take me quite a while to research this and find all the proper the proper encoding. That was the one that took the longest, was the encoding. It kept getting this error. It took me forever to solve that. And then did a little bit of research on the recycling bin to put this together. Some of this code is taken from the Violent Python and a couple of the other sources, but the way that it's set up and the logic is mine. So I hope that you liked it, that you use it. I mean, it's not really mine. Almost all code is taken from other code and everything, but I don't know. I thought I did a good job putting it together. I'm going to do a little bit more with it to use it for a little bit more teaching. But anyways, happy coding.